13 Questions by Man Transcending. Manhood in the Digital Age.
Welcome back to another episode of 13 Questions. This time we are joined by Perry Wirth, but before we get into the interview portion of the show, I have with me, as always, Adam Loyal. Adam, what is up?
Not much. Another day. How are you doing today, Bill?
I can't complain. Especially with this episode, it was another awesome referral from Mark England. So you guys will absolutely enjoy this episode 100%. These referrals have been bangers from up until this point, and this one proved to no less, right? So before we get into the gratitude section, our gratitude jingle, I did want to spend a little moment and address social media. I'm still in control of the social media for the show. However, my activity level has kind of dropped off. I do post at least one meme to each social media account. I try to, at least anyway, once a day. It's just, I've just been, I don't know, not feeling the meme game. Some of my meme wells have been drying up, especially with just as things progress and the world gets crazier and crazier. I guess it's getting harder and harder to find memes that resonate and that are worth sharing, because I'm really trying to be mindful about what messages I'm putting out in the world now that I'm doing this for social, or doing it for a podcast and not just personal social media. So if there's any meme fans out there that you've been disappointed on my lack of posting, that is kind of the explanation. But never fear, I do not intend to give up anytime soon. So with that little update out of the way, I guess we can get into our gratitude jingle. I think that you should go first this time, because last episode, I don't believe that you got to give a gratitude. I think I just steamrolled right over you. So I do apologize for that. So yeah, you have to come up with a double. We'll just count your gratitude as ×2 we'll just give it double points, because we can do that on our show, and points don't mean anything and are made up, just like that Whose Line Is It Anyway show. But yeah, so I'll let you go first this time, and then I'll go.
Gratitude, 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 oh gratitude. Gratitude, 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 oh gratitude.
So, my gratitude is very simply just the seasons. In the way that things can seem like they're not unobtainable, unpassable. Things can seem like they're a hurdle that is never going to change, that you cannot push past. There's moments in life in which you may not see any way through. But nature, the seasons, time, the rotation of the earth, the entire system that we are a part of. I mean, it's just the next day. When you try to focus on all the things in life that we get bogged down on, I think very often we forget that we are part of the season. We are part of the cycle, and we get so focused on things that are just outside of the natural world that you don't curse and prevent winter. Winter is coming. Winter's sometimes really bad, but eventually summer's coming, and winter will come again. And I don't know, just nature can be a very good lesson in just watch what happens and find your way through, because there's going to be another summer, there's going to be another sunset, there's going to be another day, there's going to be another forest fire.
Yeah, change is really the only constant. This is a phrase that I've heard thrown around before, and that certainly applies to the seasons. They're constantly changing, and I think that makes us kind of more prepared to deal with uncertainty, even though that we kind of already have an idea of what's going to happen. Like we know that winter's going to come here, right? But we we don't know what that's going to look like exactly, like how much snow is going to be on the ground, how cold it's going to get, and all these other details. But so these uncertainties, I think, allows us or challenges us to slow down and to be in the moment and just to take a breath and relax and regroup and know that everything is going to be okay. It's going to work out. The light wins in the end. It always has and it always will. So just taking comfort in that fact, I think allows me to better deal with uncertainty. And because I think that that's something that me personally and maybe some other people have experienced in the last few years is uncertainty. And yeah, so just acknowledging that change is constant, you can kind of navigate around that more gracefully, I guess, right?
I take it we have the same gratitude.
Yeah. Well, my gratitude, everybody's gratitude is the same because we're all aiming to generate that heart brain coherence, love feeling frequency. So anything that gets us going towards that direction is, I would say, the same. But my gratitude does very much tie into generating that frequency, heart love, or yeah, the heart mind frequency. And particularly there was a Grammarica, actually, the progenitors of this show, they had a guest on their show recently by the name of Tom Palladino. I do intend to reach out to him, try to get him on this show, because the episode was very, very interesting. They talked about scalar healing, and Tom likes to describe this energy as starlight, which is not something that I've heard it described before as the scalar energy that is. So definitely a different perspective that I'd like to get his more insight on from him. But speaking on scalar energy specifically, friend of the show Derek Condit is offering a free weekly scalar service, I guess you could call it. So I did want to kind of just talk about that a little bit, and then we can tie it into what we have going on with our gratitude jar working. So I am just on Derek's website, which is mysticalwares.com, and on his scalar healing page. And it's just a little blurb here that I would like to read through to kind of give the audience an idea of what exactly this scalar service is. Mystical Wares provides a free group scalar wave energy session focusing on a different frequency each week, i.e. physical healing, immune boosting, chakra boost, energy body healing, and many more. You must sign up each week to participate in the free group scalar session. Your name will be put on a list, which will be placed within our scalar wave generator's frequency field, where everyone on the list will benefit from the available frequencies. Participants must sign up each week. Weekly sign-up is to ensure you only receive the frequencies/energies you want. Once you are signed up, there's nothing to do. Simply wait until the specified date and time. During the session, you may feel a variety of energy symptoms. Remember, both your energy and physical body will feel and benefit from the invisible, or from the, I guess they are invisible, at least to our eyes, but from the available scalar energy waves. We suggest during your session, you focus your imagination on a perfectly healthy you, or any energy/ailment already being healed. Energy symptoms can range from feeling slightly tired, tingling in or around your body or aura, rapid physical/energy healing, or you may feel no change or energy at all. Scalar fields do not produce frequency fatigue. Your body takes what it needs and disregards the rest. However, you may initially experience a slight headache while your cell mitochondria recharges. How are scalar wave sessions conducted? And this kind of ties into how we're doing our gratitude jar working. So on the website, he says we load our generator X, which is the frequency generator, with the week's chosen frequency. There's a full list of these rife frequency codes on the website for you to look at too. And at the specified date time, we'll start the scalar wave device, embedding that week's chosen frequency within the scalar wave, which flows over the list of names and signups for that week. During the session, our scalar generator device will send scalar waves over the list of names for the week. Quantum waves are not limited, so all participants can/will benefit from the week's chosen frequency. You can imagine a music concert. This is the example on the website. It doesn't matter how many people are there, everyone can hear the frequency/music without it diminishing or weakening for others. So everything, lastly on the website, everything is energy. The purpose of our scalar wave sessions are to provide a space or a way on the quantum level for you to regenerate or heal using frequencies or energies. Place your name on a list each week you'd like to take advantage of the frequencies being focused on, and that's it. During our scheduled session, your energy body will have access to the week's frequency where you'll be able to heal yourself or benefit from said frequencies. You don't need to do anything with your conscious mind. Simply relax and know that your energy body already knows what to do and will only do what's most in alignment with your higher self at the time. So like I said before, this is a free service that Derek has just started offering, a weekly service. They choose one frequency a week, and you simply go to the website and put in your email and you sign up, and it's done. And I've done it. He just had one yesterday, which was a Friday. I think they do it on Fridays. It was for anti-inflammatory. The week before that was memory recall, and yeah, I've noticed. I did notice some energy or some symptoms. What would you call it? Some ringing in my ears, some different tones that were just kind of odd. But I think that it's been beneficial for me from what I can tell so far. So, and that's a free service, and all you need is your email and your name, right? Or not even your name, just your email. I think if you want to provide your name, that's an option. But that ties into our gratitude jar working, because essentially we're working with the same energy. Our bodies, when we make this heart-mind connection, our bodies are the most advanced piece of technology that we have available to us. We just simply have not remembered yet, I would say, how to use it to its full potential. And that, I think I attributed that to censorship. I think that anything that is censoring us from getting further knowledge and learning about ourselves is a bad thing. And I think there's been, censorship for, I don't know, not millennia, but maybe centuries. So as we begin to learn about these things and wake up and remember remember like who we are, we're better able to take advantage of technologies and understandings like this. So to kind of parallel and compare what Derek's doing with what we're trying to do, we don't have a changing frequency that we pick from every week. It's just the frequencies that are around the jar is what I'm really trying to tie it into. And these have to do with stones of the violet ray, gems of the violet ray. And a lot of these stones have to deal with the crown chakra. So a lot of them are purple or violet. And this week's stone is Brandenburg amethyst. And I'm going to read from the Encyclopedia of Crystals by Judy Hall to give us a little bit of idea of the metaphysical traits of Brandenburg amethyst. Beneficial for convalescence, autoimmune disease, ME, severe depletion, multidimensional cellular memory healing, limbic brain, and Brandenburg amethyst works best beyond the physical level. So in the little paragraph blurb she has about it, it says, geologically speaking, Brandenburg amethyst is a young stone, but has a very old soul and extremely high vibration. A useful aid to multidimensional spiritual work, inner windows or phantoms assist in looking within or traversing the spiritual planes. So a phantom is a formation or an inner window is kind of like something you can see inside of the quartz or the amethyst or the gem, whatever you're looking into. So that's just a little explanation that, right there for people that might not know what phantoms are in quartz and stones and stuff like that. She continues, emanating infinite compassion to all creation, Brandenburg brings about deep soul healing and forgiveness. In addition to carrying the generic properties of amethyst, the stone speeds recovery from illness or accident and is excellent for house clearing. A smoky Brandenburg is the finest tool available for removing implants, attachments, spirit possession, or mental influence, and is the stone par excellence for transformation or transition. Note, Brandenburg amethyst is a high vibration stone. So, I will now move my Brandenburg amethyst from the spot where it is sitting now and place it next to our gratitude jar, which is just a few inches away. So there, this is done. This is how I'm keeping track of what crystals I have gone
I
through.
love it.
So slowly moving them over to the altar as we read about them. So yeah, we are. So instead of picking one frequency a week like Derek's doing, we're putting all these stones around the gratitude jar, and like Derek's program he's got going on. All we need is your name. We don't need a picture, and I write your name in purple ink for a reason. You can imagine why, and it's there for forever, for perpetuity until at least I'm gone, because I'm maintaining the altar. So unless somebody else comes along after I'm dead and picks it up, this will be something that happens, then something that we keep going until for the rest of my earthly life anyway. So and it's free. It's not totally free, I guess. All that we ask is for you to support the show. It could be a one-time donation of $1, or it can be a recurring amount for any amount. That's really just another benefit that I wanted to try and offer the listener for supporting the show. There's no, it's just something I wanted to do, and I wanted to share my crystals and kind of spread the love, so to speak. So that's the idea behind the gratitude jar working. What did you think? What do you think about all that, Adam?
I really do like this crystal. I recently went through, after I broke my chain, so I was without my shungite for, I don't know, probably about a month, and finally found a new chain worth getting, and also ordered a multitude of stones that I had never had before. So my favorite new one is actually opal, which seems to have a very nice calming effect to it. So I suggest that one to you, Bill. It's not quite a purple, but it's a very calming stone.
Yeah, opals are really neat to look at. And even though it's not purple, we are actually nearing the end of at least the purple stones I have in my possession. I think there might be a couple more I could do, but I figured, why stop at just the violet ray stones? There are a few other ones I have which are also beneficial, but they're not purple. Some of them are pink and blue, so maybe we'll just stick with those three colors. But it's a work in progress. If you guys have any input or advice, or maybe some stones that you want to see added to the altar, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. We'll see if we can make it happen or not. So the gratitude jar is there as an added benefit for anybody that can support the show in that way. And if not, the most effective way to support the show is to share it. Share it with someone that you love, with anybody that you love, with someone that you respect, or somebody that maybe you're mentoring, or whoever you think would benefit from hearing conversations such as these. That is also a very beneficial way to help support, is just by sharing, because our download numbers are going up, but I know that they can be more. So spread the word, help spread the word, spread the love, and time, talent, and treasure.
That's right. You got to water the things you love. If you don't, I mean, we're not cactuses, so.
Yeah. We're not prickly.
No, but that's all we ask. Whatever you find value in, that's all we can ask from you. So if you enjoyed the show, send in what you believe it's worth and share this with your friends. And that includes just what you do with your own brain. If you're sitting through here and you go, man, hearing this really makes me wonder about boom, and you got a new question for the show, send it in. We really do want to expand and change and just pull this thing along. And these questions all came from incredibly bright, brilliant people. The people we have on the show are all bright, brilliant people. But we are all people who are here, who have survived by the mere ability of surviving, having made it to the precipice of our civilization. You are here. You have had knowledge passed down to you that has lasted thousands, if not millions of years, depending on your beliefs. So, yeah, we're in this together.
Yep, we are truly standing on the shoulders of giants. So yeah, don't forget to water your cactus. And without further ado, this is 13 Questions with Perry Wirth. What was the best advice ever given to you, and would you modify it at all today?
I love this question because, I feel like I've gotten a lot of voice advice over the years from so many different people. And I feel like I'm not very good at remembering exactly what people say or who told me it or where I read it or whatever it might have been. But going through this, the one that stood out to me was, whatever you do, it should be a hell yeah or a hell no. Right. Being an entrepreneur, also having a career, time is limited. My own personal energy is limited. So I want to make sure that everything I'm doing, like I am all in on it. And, that has been a guiding force into, just the way I view things and the way I operate as a person, as a human.
It's funny that you bring that up only because I said that exact phrase or something similar to my fiance today, I think. But would you agree that if it's not a hell yes, then it must be a hell no? Like if you're trying to make a decision about like what to do, is that too absolutist for you?
It is a little absolute for me. I think you need to get to one or the other. And I think there's a middle ground, but when you're in that middle ground, I think you can use some exploration to get to either end. And that's not meaning like when you pick one, you need to stick with it. There's been things where I'm like, in my business, I'm like, hell yeah, this is the right idea. We're going to do this. This is how it's going to be. And you would do it and you're like, okay, maybe I need to pivot a little bit. Maybe I need to, use a little flexibility in what I want to do as well. Right. I don't like to operate in 100% absolutes. I'm a believer in sticking to your gut as well. But your gut can have different levels of commitment, right? And those levels can change. And when those levels change, I think it's just kind of your sign that, you need to adapt. Not that you necessarily made the wrong decision, but a short shift, a small pivot will set you in the direction that you're meant to be. I do feel like that initial hell yeah or hell no is like your guiding force.
Yeah, and it allows for not taking it in an absolute way. Kind of allows for space for other things to pivot to, right?
Yeah.
Question number 2: what do you willfully ignore?
I mean, outside of most mass media, Facebook and social media bickering, I've taken it upon myself not to, I don't want to say ignore what people are saying, because that's not really what I mean to say. I choose to sometimes ignore the words that people are saying, because, over the years and, through some training and, mentorship that I've received, I've realized that, if I can look past and ignore the words that people are saying, I can finally realize like what they're actually looking for. Right. A great example is I'm very much hey, I want to help you sort of person. So you bring me an issue, I want to solve it. I'm a black belt in Jiu Jitsu. I'm a technology consultant. Like, people bring me problems and I fix them. Right. You bring me, hey, here's what's happening in my technique. I fix it. Right. Here's my problem that's going on in my marketing for my business. Like, I fix it. So I'm very, results oriented, and, by being able to ignore the words people are saying and actually hear what they want. Sometimes when people just come to me with advice, or people come to me with a problem, it's not that they want help to fix it. It's they just want support. They want to be heard. Maybe they want help to fix it, but they don't want me to do it. They want my assistance with it in some different sort of capacity than me just like throwing out, what I think the solutions are. And that's been a huge thing that I've been trying to work on personally, is really understanding what people want. Right. And I think it involves ignoring what they're necessarily saying to a certain degree.
Yeah, I get it about kind of reading between the lines, so to speak, and seeing past the words. And I love how you're blending results and solutions with this intuitive, reading. You're results driven, yet because we're not absolutists and allow space and room to pivot, then you're able to read between the lines and kind of do it intuitively. Because seeing past the words just sounds so weird to me, because I've been talking a whole lot about like word magic and like how we speak to ourselves is super important. So I've never heard it. Like, I like the perspective of that phrase, just seeing past the words and getting to, because the words are just a vehicle for like what we're trying to communicate, right?
They are. And people are terrible at using them, myself included. We're very bad at articulating our needs. So we articulate them in ways that we've been taught how to articulate them throughout our lives. So I'm really bad at it as well. If I want a specific type of help from another person, I need to, take a step back and say, okay, how do I actually articulate what I'm needing? A lot of that's being in tune with yourself, being in tune with your feelings, being in tune with your words, your word choices, your tonality, your body, your presence, and that it's next level awareness is that's what it is. Going back to your first question, best piece of advice. It's not necessarily a best piece of advice, but more of a quote that one of my mentors has is, your future hinges on your ability to effectively communicate, or our futures hinge on our ability to effectively communicate. So to communicate what we want, to influence other people, to influence ourselves. Anytime I have some sort of issue or some sort of conflict, whether it's with another person or with myself, I always take a step back and be like, okay, is this a communication issue? Because that's a spot to start. I'm teaching a technique in class to any of my students, and they're just not getting it. The first thing I need to ask myself is this a communication issue? Is it a way that I'm communicating it? Is it a way that they're receiving it? Is it a way that we need to meet in the middle? I'm typically teaching to a larger group, so it's hard to individualize that. So I need to hit everyone on a similar level and then individualize. But having that communication as my baseline gives me a spot to start.
That speaks to pattern interruption too, a little bit. The ability to effectively communicate and realizing that when we're not doing that, like that recognition of that pattern. Like, do you find that it's easier to do that, and the more that it happens, like you first discover it once, and it's kind of a challenge, and then it gets a little bit easier afterwards?
Yeah, interrupting your own pattern, super. It's super powerful. But recognizing those loops that we're stuck in. Whether it's a loop that's hindering our progress to get what we want, or just a loop that's not serving us, right? There's loops or habits that run through our lives that serve us, or ones that hold us back, right? And we can improve both of those. We can get rid of ones, we can accelerate ones and make ones better and more powerful. Maybe some of those too powerful ones, like me, need to tone down a little bit. But recognizing those patterns and being able to interrupt them in whatever direction they need to be interrupted in is critical. And as an instructor, both to kids, and when you're an instructor to kids, you're also an instructor to the parents as well. Half of me teaching kids jiu-jitsu is teaching, parents about their kids, and parents and their kids learning, and their kids going through other sports and activities. And, we do a lot of character development. So at the same time I'm teaching a kid about confidence, I'm teaching a parent about confidence. But, recognizing the loops that they're in. The same thing with, adult members. We'll get caught into loops of techniques. We practice it, not effectively as we could for a long time. And we kind of get stuck in that loop of practicing it that way. It's a perfect reflection of, how we operate in life. We grew up doing something a certain way. So we get into loop of doing it that same way. And we need to break ourselves out of that structure to find the improved way of doing it.
So how long have you been practicing or teaching jiu-jitsu?
So I started jiu-jitsu in 2007 when I was in college. I was a sophomore. Maybe I was a freshman. But I wrestled for years before that, and jiu-jitsu and wrestling are pretty much the same thing. Instead of pinning the person, you're trying to choke them or break their arm. But they're both grappling. There's no striking in either of them, which is beautiful. I don't want to get hit in the face. I don't like bloody noses. I don't like black eyes. I don't like brain damage. So I was very resistant at starting jiu-jitsu. One of my friends tried to get me to do it for years. I was like, jiu-jitsu, I wrestle. What do I need jiu-jitsu for? And he finally got me go in after like 6 months of him doing it. And I fell in love on the first day. It was super new to Wisconsin. When I started, there were 2 black belts in the state. A month in, my instructor got his black belt. And then a year later, I started my academy. And it's like unheard of. You can't start an academy after a year of training nowadays. The sport's just starting to get more and more evolved. There's more and more people doing it, more and more qualified instructors. But back then, from Wisconsin, if you wanted to do jiu-jitsu, you had to be in one of like the 3 or 4 major cities to do it. Like, it wasn't a thing that was available in the suburbs. So me and my best friend brought it there. And we started teaching in 2008. So I've been teaching since then.
Super cool. I love the academy. Like that whole word just conjures in my mind like this wisdom school, like this place you go to learn not only how to deal like physically but mentally too, right?
100%. It's a space of higher learning. I didn't want to use the term school or dojo or club. Club kind of makes me like shudder a little bit. Whether it be like Fight Club or Dudes Club or, the golf club, whatever it might be. And, we really hit that home with the term academy. It's a place where people, come to learn. We have our own community within it, and it's something that resonates with us. Careful word choices are powerful.
Yeah, they are. Speaking of words, question number 3, what has been the most influential book on your life and why?
So I didn't get into reading until after college. It's not a great claim to fame, but I didn't read a book, and don't tell any of my past teachers. I didn't read a book in middle school, high school, or college. Didn't read a single one. Spark Notes saved my education, and I was really good at taking tests. But now, I'm just an audiobook and podcast fanatic. I listen to so many, and there's been so many different books that have influenced different areas of my life. whether it be the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, really being like, okay, how can I optimize the martial arts career that I have, and, develop systems and processes and teams for that, or, the E-Myth on that side of things as well, or even Profit First, which was really like the first book that was kind of gave me some structure on how I can make my business make money. Last night, as I was going through these questions, I just watched the movie for the book Peaceful Warrior, which is a awesome book about kind of the warrior spirit, the warrior mindset, what you need to go through, to be a quote unquote warrior. So I think from a personal standpoint, that one was very powerful for myself. But there's so many different areas in our lives that we can improve. It's so hard to say like the most influential. It's like, okay, the most influential on what? My habits? Perfect. Atomic Habits, done deal. Growth is huge at my academy. I want to see my students grow, and not just jiu-jitsu, but, in their own personal lives as well. So I have a list of books that was influential with me that I just gift to people. I know that new student who's coming in for jiu-jitsu, who's an adult, Atomic Habits is perfect for them, because they're coming to jiu-jitsu quite often because they want to develop new healthy habits in their lives. And they've put a great structure in that book together for that. Kids, there's a few different books. The 7 Habits of Happy Kids is great, but there's also, Jocko Willink's kids books that talks about the warrior kid, the kid that should be healthy and stand up for themselves and have discipline, and kind of how that shows up in their lives, and to, avoid bullying and be their best selves. And I think that's stuff that kids need. That would probably be one of the most influential books if I actually read it when I was, 8 or 9. But, there's so many out there that are so great. And I saw your list on the website, and I was going through that, and that's an awesome, influential book playlist.
Yeah, that thing has been super fun to curate. I just bought another book today off of it by Richard Bach. Actually, the author was mentioned, Richard Bach, but I bought a second book from him, not on the list, which was called The Illusions. It's over there. I can't read the subtitle, but anyway, yeah, book. I love that you have a book list that you give to people. It's like giving them mental homework, because when people show up to a place, especially like an academy, they're hungry, right? And you can't be there with them like 100% of the time. So it's nice to have something to walk away and, accomplish, like a assignment almost, I guess.
Readers make leaders. There's one thing about being assigned a book to read in school, and you have to read it because you have to read it, no matter how good that book is. But when you choose to educate yourself, I think that's very admirable and representational of the type of person that you are.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the warrior archetype, that peaceful warrior. That reminds me of a quote about being a I'd rather be a samurai in a garden than a gardener in a battlefield.
Yeah. Absolutely. Doing jiu-jitsu with a bunch of like younger guys, when I started in my 20s, it'd be funny. I definitely went through my party years of college and the 20-year-old era. And you would see like the higher rank someone got, and the more experienced someone would get in jiu-jitsu, the less you would ever see them have conflict, at bars or in social situations or anything like that. There's this way that martial artists, true martial artists, just carry themselves. Like, you know that you could physically control another human being. It's going to be hard for another human being to physically control you. So you get this just next level confidence, without ego and arrogance, that just kind of sets your tone for yourself.
Yeah, it's like your energy introduces yourself before you even get into the room.
100%. That's when we do self-defense seminars. That's the first thing that we tell typically the ladies that are there. If you carry a presence of awareness and confidence with you, you're less target.
Yeah, that's just the sense of awareness. I mean, you put it perfectly right there. One thing that I try to do on a daily basis is try to run like a zip program file and kind of try to maintain the third person aspect. And I'll try to do it in the morning and maintain it throughout the day.
I love that. Whatever you want to call it, reflection, meditation, introspection. I think all of that can, help facilitate that process.
Absolutely. Question number 4. What rule do you have for yourself that you never break, and why do you think that it's important?
Never's hard. I probably break it sometimes, but keeping your word, congruency, doing what you say you're going to do, and having your mind aligned to it. What I think is what I say is what I do. And that's important to me. If for some reason I cannot execute those 3 things, my second rule, which is if I'm going to break this rule, is just to be forward about it. If I say I'm going to do something and halfway through I'm like, man, I'm not going to pull this off, or, maybe plans change or whatever it might be, being open and honest and having integrity around it.
That speaks to the difference between, like, I don't know if this is a good example, like soft talk and solid talk, like about the aspect of being forward about it and being honest, as opposed, you want to be solid at that moment, even though it's like uncomfortable, right? But
yeah, I love the Mark England references.
Yeah.
He's been very, I've had a couple of different mentors and teachers that I've apprenticed under, we'll say that, versus learned. And, Mark England being one, my friend Michael Burnoff being another one. They both have shown me in their own similar but different ways how powerful, words and those concepts are, not just with other people, but with yourself. Right. And I think that's big, being, I like to take that. People kind of have the, you walk the walk, you talk the talk sort of thing. What you say is what you're going to do. But what it truly is what you think is what you say is what you're going to do. Right. You have that internal piece of it as well.
Yeah. The internal dialogue is, well, working from the outside, from the inside out, right? And I love that Mark England gave me a bunch of guest suggestions after I interviewed him on the show, as you know. But listener, if it's the first time that you're hearing this, I'm loving talking to everybody that Mark has referred, because it's not only does it give me like a chance to talk to more awesome people on the show, right? But to kind of explore these concepts more, and the more that we do that, the more concrete that they become, and easier to talk about and communicate. And it's cool because it's, like you said, similar but in different ways. And so talking to everybody and pulling on these common threads is kind of what the show is all about, so we can answer these questions and kind of get a consensus and move on from there.
I mean, that's what martial arts is all about too. I like being able to personally tie everything back to martial arts, right? Martial arts is just a set of tools in your toolbox. It's a set of techniques. You pull out the right technique at the right time and it does magic. If you don't use the right technique, it was going to do just as good as you're going to do without having it, right? You gave it a shot. These techniques take reps, they take practice, they take seeing someone else work it with you working it with someone else. And in reality, when it comes down to it, we're all just mixed martial artists. We pick the techniques that work the best for us, right? And we try to grow those over time. We refine them. We pick up new ones. We get rid of other ones. And the more people you have from that community join you and you're surrounded. Mark's, I think one of the best thing that Mark has done is the community that he's created of like-minded individuals that are very diverse. You get a lot of different teammates and sparring partners in a good way, not ones that are trying to like stop you, but the ones that are trying to help you grow. Because those are the best ones, the ones that challenge you, that push your limits, that call you out, that give you new ideas from different industries, different parts of the world, different walks of life.
Yeah, it speaks to the whole idea behind surrounding yourself with people that you want to imitate. Become become what you're surrounded by, basically. And if you surround yourself with positive people that want to uplift you and help you out, as opposed to, like you were saying, like bickering on social media, which still seems to be a thing nowadays. But it definitely makes you said it perfectly. It's magic. It really is. It is magic. You just got to personalize it and find that specific recipe that speaks to you and that works for you. And it's it's a very subjective, personal thing to do, and it's super helpful to have a coach to walk you through the steps, right?
Yeah, and someone to practice with you for sure, right? Even if that practicing person is your best friend that's not affiliated, or your fiance, or whoever it might be, right? You start using your techniques on this podcast, right? I use them when I teach my class. I go back, I reflect on it. What did it change? What did it do? Did it have an impact? Was it positive? I've never gone to use a communication technique that I've learned and have reflected and had it make a negative impact. Right. Same thing in martial arts. A lot of times, like if you go for a move that doesn't work, quite often it doesn't work, and you're just where you were at anyways. Right. There are techniques that will, and you go for it, you'll end up upside down and twisted into a knot and tapped out, but like few and far between.
Question number 5. If I were to ask your best friend, what is the one thing they would say you need to work on the most, and why?
I'm going to say backing off of work a little bit. I am very much a I want to say type A personality, but I don't actually know what the definition of that is. But I'm a very structured individual that, I'm very passionate about my business. I'm very passionate about my career. So I spend a lot of time working on that. And I spend a lot of time working on myself, which works on that, which ends up leaving me not as much time as I would want for especially last minute friend activities. I've got it a lot better over the years at planning stuff out with my friends and taking a step back and be like, hey guys, are you free in 3 weeks? Let's do brunch. Let's set this up. Let's go. Let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's do that. But I've lost a lot of personal flexibility that I see a lot of people have. I have at least most of the time, a 9 to 5 and a 5 to 9, where most people don't have that double thing going on. It's just how I've chosen to live life. And I don't think I would change a thing, but I do, do I have regrets? Yeah, because I've missed some of that opportunity to have ultimate evening flexibility for a large portion of my life. But it's something I'm working on. And I know that my friends would maybe sometimes like me too. I shouldn't be so soft talk about it, but like me to have a little more flexibility in my schedule to be free just at the whim.
So this is juggling between the jiu-jitsu and your consultation work?
Yeah, I do digital marketing consulting.
Is that for anybody? Is that can you talk about that? Is that freelance or is it?
Yeah, I can, at least a little bit. I probably can't mention clients, but I work for Accenture, which is a global firm. So it's really cool that, I love the company I work for. They have great values. I love my clients. I love my team. And I've been working at them since I graduated college. So since 2011, you guys can figure out how old I am. So over a decade spent there. I do digital marketings, usually in the more the technology side versus like the content creation side of things for consumer packaged good companies. So alcohol, beverage, cleaning companies, stuff like that. A few local Wisconsin area clients. And I love it. It's very process oriented. I get to have my little nerd fix every day of I just kind of like being able to sit down and nerd on stuff and do marketing. But it's very interesting going from a company that has, what do we have now? 700,000 employees worldwide, global. I work with people from, like 3 countries every single day to my company of like 4 or 5. In the summer, we run a summer camp. So right now we have like 11. But it's kind of the same because when you work for a company that's that large, you advocate for yourself. You're in the big ocean, but you're really running your own small little business out of it, right? You have to get yourself staffed. You have to advocate for yourself to get on projects, to get promotions, to find teams that you like working with and hopefully stick with those teams across different clients. So I've taken a lot of what I've learned in both careers and been able to cross over and use it in the other ones.
It's a lot of telecommuting, telecommuting. Like you mentioned, finding teams. It's global, right?
Yeah, it's very global right now. My team is I have a person in Chicago, I have a person in New York, and I have a team in Costa Rica that I work with. The beautiful thing is it's a consulting agency, and there's a saying I heard at one point in time that unicorns work for agencies, and that is 100% true. Because as you grow in an agency like that, whether it's a marketing or consulting or whatever it might be, if you're not good at your job, you don't get staffed on projects. So by the time you've been around for a couple of years, it's kind of weeded thin. And with our global network, we have an expert on everything. Everything. If I ever had a question on something, it might take a couple connections, but I can find someone who's an expert on anything. And I've also worked for a very small marketing company when I was in college, and I was the only guy, and I got really, really good at Googling. If something was broken, IT or website, it was Google, figure it out. I had my boss I could go to. If he didn't know, he'd be like, I'm just going to Google, so you should Google. I was like, okay. Which kind of gave me that drive of really just looking to learn on my own. It's probably what started a lot of it, was kind of just the figure it out mindset. It's very useful in entrepreneurship, very useful in martial arts.
Yeah, the self-starter mindset and the whole Google thing, it's so weird that I remember a time pre-Google, right? And now that Google exists, I have to catch myself, and instead of I don't know if this is correct or not, quote unquote correct or not, but before I ask somebody, I have to say, is this something I can Google and find out myself?
It just says that Googling's a verb. It's a verb now. I remember when it wasn't and people started using it, I was like, that's not even a word, guys. It's a website. And then it turned into, it's probably in some dictionary somewhere that it's an actual word. It's just, wild. The internet's magical, but there's a lot of things that you should willfully ignore on it.
Yeah. And then, so back to the whole self-starter thing, that to me speaks to initiation, because, and we can even see this in, I don't know if I was trying to do some word breakdowns and wordplay earlier with ignition, self-starters, because ignition switch is a starter, right? So, yeah. And then initiation, maybe they share some kind of root word or something. I don't know, but
I'm sure. I feel like Mark knows all those Latin breakdowns of all those words.
Question number 6. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Really, truly helping people problem solve for themselves. My job as a coach, when someone comes to me or they want to learn or they have a question or something like that is to ultimately not just give them the answer, but give them the path to it. Whether it's helping them discover the answer on their own or truly understand what the answer is and then the why behind it. And I love, like, my favorite thing about teaching is just seeing people having those light bulb moments of learning. And you physically see it. Like, they stop, they like lock it in their brain, their eyes dilate a little bit, and they're like, oh. And then they actually got it. And they're going to have that for a long time. And it shows up in other places too. The coaching on the mat is just one level of coaching that a coach does. It's, to me, that one of the reasons why I really started diving into communication is, like, as a jiu-jitsu coach, you end up being a therapist. I feel like I'm the hairdresser that everyone kind of tells their little secrets to when they're getting their hair cut. Right. But it's not usually during class. A parent comes to me and they're like, hey, my kid has some struggles. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm teaching them martial arts, but you want me to help them with, their ADD or their self-confidence issues or, whatever it might be. And it's great. Like, martial arts is a great vehicle for that, but it's not the solution. Right. I could teach all that stuff teaching football or soccer or another sport if I wanted to, because I have the communication down. And the same thing with adults. Adults are always going through stuff. I found over the years that people are usually a little less, they're a little more reluctant on sharing about themselves versus sharing about their child, which is backwards. But, having that communication has helped me with that too. But it's the same thing. Like, I can't, someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm having this problem, or, hey, my kid's getting bullied, or they're shy. I can't just like give the answer. It's not going to do anything. So, being creative and connecting with that person and giving them what they need versus what they want, and watching them get it and get the results is what drives me.
Because we know it's a lasting change, right? It's going to, like, once you see that aha moment or the eureka moment, like that light switch, like, deep down into that like whatever happened right there, that energy transfer, like, it's not gonna go away like when you walk away, right? It's persistent.
Yeah, whatever's happening in the brain of, like, everything firing in the right way at the right time, like it's locked in.
Yep, and it only takes like a moment, right? Aha moment, eureka. It's that one instant of, like, inspired, understanding almost, right?
Exactly. That light bulb turns on, but it's LED. It stays on for a long time.
Yeah, like that analogy.
I just made it up. It worked well,
right? It's like the sun. It's
not going to age well because people are going to be like, but all lights are LED.
Right.
Remember the light bulbs that would go out every 6 months.
What's not LED? What is he talking about now? Question number 7. What was the most embarrassing or humbling experience of your life?
Oh. I say this one a lot to my martial arts students, and we're going to go with humbling. And there's this time where I went out to Falls Church, Virginia, in the Washington, D.C. area to train at my friend's gym that Ryan Hall owns. Ryan Hall is a very good jiu-jitsu player, instructor, artist. He is a UFC fighter. He's a little bit smaller than me, but he's really good. And, I showed up. It was a no-gi class, which, if you're not familiar with jiu-jitsu, there's 2 different types of jiu-jitsu. There's gi, which we're wearing like the uniform, or I call it a bathrobe or pajamas. It's like pajama wrestling. And then there's no gi, which is a shorts and an Under Armour shirt. And there's a little bit of a difference. You can grab the uniform when they're wearing it. When they're wearing shorts and t-shirt, you can't grab onto it and use it. But a big difference is you can't see anyone's ranks necessarily, because when you're wearing the gi, people have their belt tied around you. So you can see what rank they are. And that will play into my story in a second. But I went to go roll and train and spar with Ryan. And I believe it was like right before he was on the show, The Ultimate Fighter. So he didn't announce that he was on the show yet, but he was training like he was going to be on the show and be on TV. So he was just going, not hard, but he wasn't going to play. And I've trained with a lot of top level jiu-jitsu people that could just like smoke me, but they're playful and they kind of let me do techniques too. And then they do techniques and they still beat me, but they let me do some stuff. But I can also 100% tell that they're letting me just do stuff because they're kind. Otherwise, it would be boring for them. But when I went with Ryan, he did this technique. It's called a heel hook, where it's like the most devastating thing you could do to someone's knee if you don't tap out and you pull it really hard. It's like if you took your knee and you just twisted it in the socket. So not bending, but like literally twisted, your tibia, fibia, and your femur all together. It just wrecks everything. If you want to tear everything in the knee, it's the best way to do it. So I went to roll with Ryan, and it was no gi. So he didn't know what rank I was. He knew I was around for a while because my friend taught at his gym, but he probably didn't say, hey, Perry's a brown belt. He's been training for 8 years. I knew who Ryan was, and I went to roll with Ryan, and Ryan heel hooked me. And I was like, oh, that was cool. But he did it in like maybe 5 seconds. And matches were like 5 or 10 minutes long. And I was like, that was cool. So I slapped his hands again, and he did it again to me in like another 10 seconds. And I was like, son of a gun. And I was like, okay, cool. So learn my lesson twice. I'm not going to do the same thing I did. I'm just going to maybe I was standing the first time. I'm going to kneel this time as I go after him. So I slapped hands, bumped fists. We went, I was kneeling, and he did the same thing to me again. And then he did the same thing to me. He probably did it to me like 8 times, just the same technique, 8 times in one match. And after the match was done, I hope he listens to this someday. After the match was done, he's like, so what rank are you? And I was like, brown belt. But you made me feel like I didn't do a single move to him. Nothing. I walked at him. I crawled at him. I walked on my knees at him. Like I didn't do a single technique to him. And it was humbling just to realize, there's different levels. And he was smaller than me. I was probably stronger than him. But there's black belts, and there's competition world champion level black belts. And he's more towards that world champion black belt spectrum. And it was cool to see how he's a very good instructor too. Like his teaching ability and the way he teaches, I connect with very well. So I already knew that. And there's different levels of instructors and people who are great at communicating that way. But his technical execution of jiu-jitsu was insane. And it very much showed my eyes. I'm from Wisconsin. There's a lot of good jiu-jitsu here, but I've never had that happen before. And now, when I'm like, hey, I know a lot about digital marketing, I kind of sit back and I'm like, man, but there's people that know a lot about it. Right. And, I know a lot about communication, but Mark knows a lot about communication, and he's got a lot more experience utilizing it. And I kind of it checked my ego for sure. Not that I had a big one, not that I went into my role thinking like, hey, I'm going to give this guy a run for his money. But I didn't think that was going to happen. But that being said, he did go with my business partner afterwards, and he took mount on my business partner. So my business partner was on his back. He was sitting on his stomach. And my business partner at the time was trying to buck and do everything he could to get out of it for 5 minutes straight. And Ryan was just pretty much on top falling asleep. And I don't know which one was more humbling. Was it more humbling for me or for my friend? But just to see him also do it to someone else, I was like, oh yeah, that's the real deal.
Just reinforced it.
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just wild.
I like this question because it's interesting to hear the responses, just because it gets everybody's different story of how different perspectives can, like you said, ego check or check your ego, like not put you in your place because you're not doing anything wrong, right? But just kind of step back and get you out of your element, so to speak, so you can,
and I think being humble is good. Getting your ego in check is good, but also recognizing your wins and your accomplishments and how far you've come is very important too. And even looking at that, now that I'm a black belt, not that changes anything, but it's 5 years later, maybe, I've never done the math, but I'm sure if I did it, I'm probably in the top 1% of people that have ever done jiu-jitsu. Not currently do it necessarily, but people that have tried it and quit or stuck with it. If you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you're probably in the top, couple percent, which not a lot of people recognize their efforts to do that. Right? Like to the black belts listening, like you're probably in the top 2% of jiu-jitsu people that have ever done jiu-jitsu before. Recognize the work you've put in. Yeah. But also know there's people that can just probably smoke you.
Yeah, I like that how you brought up the other side of the coin of recognizing your wins too, because that's important. And maybe some people, I know I sometimes don't have I have trouble acknowledging victories in the past, but when I do find myself finding the space to think about them again, like to boost confidence or whatever, like it's helpful to go back and acknowledge that and give credit where credit is due, because whatever it is that happened is in the past, right? So you did that. That's you.
Our wins create us. Our losses create us. It's what are you running to and from? Run to your results. Learn from your losses and run towards those learnings.
Well said.
I think one of the most powerful things I've started to do is just people have gratitude journals. I started my win journal and I write down my one win every day, just so I start recognizing them. There's the reticular activating system. What you bring to your front of your mind, you start seeing more often. If you start recognizing your wins on a regular basis, you'll start actually seeing your wins more often and you'll start creating more of them. If you focus on everything that goes bad, if you don't willfully ignore all the bickering on social media, you're going to start looking for it and you're going to start letting it affect you. And, you might even start partaking in it. Right. So find those positive victories, write them down and find more of them. Recognize them in other people, recognize them in yourself.
It's important how much of an impact writing something out can be, as opposed to just thinking about it and not writing it, right?
That's fully true. Even if take it to be simple, super simple, something you need to remember. Like you'll remember it better if you write it down. Hey, I need to go get dog food today. Okay, write it down. You'll probably remember it better. If it works for something like remembering to get dog food, which I did get today, it will work for stuff like wins. It'll work for jiu-jitsu techniques.
Yeah, I think the gratitude journal is a great idea. I have a journal, but I don't write it down. I just start doing that.
Yeah, and for me, it's just one win a day. That's my target. If I write down 2, sweet. But just I find the one thing that stood out to me. What was awesome? Maybe it's something I did. Maybe it's something a friend of mine did. Maybe it's something someone said to me. Whatever it might be. Write it down, and you'll start finding more of them.
Question number 8. What is your greatest fear? How did you overcome it, if you have?
My goodness. Well, fear is I don't like heights. I'm a little bit better with heights now, but I don't like it. And no, I'm not going to go skydive and jump out of a plane to get rid of my fear of heights. I don't know if that would necessarily work. Oddly enough, though, I did do, I got hypnotized once for my height fear, and it's way better. I was like, this is not going to work. And it's way better. but that's like, I don't know. It doesn't impact me. Great. Like it's a fear of mine, but it doesn't impact me on a daily basis. It's not something I think about every day. My greatest fear is limiting beliefs. You know, I'm not good enough is a huge one. You know, it's shown up in my business. It's shown up in relationships. You know, I do think don't write those down,
Yeah.
right? Don't start looking for ways that validate that you're not good enough, right? The wind journals help with getting over stuff like that. And but so have like better relationships and better circles that have, you know, people have embraced me for who I am, and they have helped me realize that I am good enough. Does that linger in the back of my head every once in a while? Yeah. You know, there's also things that linger back there that, you know, I don't do all that I can do. Right. Or you don't work hard enough, you know, which that I know I do. You know, I put my heart and soul into almost everything I do. And it still lingers there every once in a while. But you have to confront them. You know, limiting beliefs, they're things you have to recognize. And for myself, it's find the things that offset it. Right. So start finding those positives, the little wins. You start recognizing those more than you do the stuff that's pulling you in the other direction. Cut some of those strings behind you.
Sometimes those beliefs that can be like even subconscious, and we don't even realize that we have this belief, and it is creating some type of boundary. And just, you know, knowing is half the battle, right? So once we identify that, you can, like you were saying, find the other side to it, right?
For sure. And, you know, it's one of those things where I've gone to a few different like personal development conferences, and there's one I go back to and I help out at usually once or twice a year. And it's the same conference every time, but it's not, because every time I go to a conference, I'm a different person. Same thing in martial arts. If I teach you a technique now and I teach you the exact technique in 3 months, it's not the same because you are different. You've been practicing. You've been put in different situations. You have a new perspective of what's going on. And, you know, I'll go from one exercise of, you know, figuring out my limiting beliefs and be like, I got this. Like I nailed them. I got them all written down. And then I'll go to another conference and someone will be like, hey, this is one of mine. And I'll be like, shit, I have that too. And like you said, it's like, it's lingering in the subconscious, but like, man, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Like until you hear someone verbalize it or articulate it, you're like, man, me too.
Yeah. It helps to do these types of things, you know, in groups, like these conferences, or like with a coach, right? Just speaking back to the whole, you got to have a sparring partner, right?
Both, you know, a lot of times in jiu-jitsu at the end of class, we're like, hey, who's got questions? You know, there's a such thing as a silly question. There's not a bad question. And, you know, I guarantee you, if you ask a question, someone else in the room probably has that same question in some capacity, and you're going to help someone else. But they didn't know they had that question until you ask it. You know, I do a mastermind from my martial arts academy, and one of my favorite mastermind things is, so mastermind, if you're not familiar with it, it's from Napoleon. Is that Napoleon Hill's book? Yeah. And it's a group of like-minded individuals that get together and they talk about stuff and they try to push each other to the next level. And I'm in a couple business specific ones. I was in a communication specific one, but the business ones, one of my favorite concepts is this hot seat. Where like, you know, I talk about what's holding me back in my business, things, you know, I need other people's perspectives on solving. And then everyone kind of chips in on their experience and what they think could help. And, I get what I want out of those. And I talk about this, getting what you want versus what you need. Like, okay, my question is my question, but a lot of times someone else asks a question of their issue, and it's an issue that I have, but I didn't realize it's an issue I have until someone else asks it. And they're like, hey, I have this going on in my business and it's causing this. And I'm like, man, I got that same thing. I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, that's a better question than my question. Like, that's actually holding me back more than the thing that I brought to the table. So being in these groups of, like-minded individuals that are supporting each other, that are challenging each other, it's like skipping steps. And same thing as having a coach. Like, why figure it all out on yourself? Why, Google's there. I get it. Great. It's good to have that self-starter to figure it out. But, feel free to skip steps every once in a while. Get a coach, get a mentor, get someone that pushes you, and get a group that, is also looking to grow. You'll grow faster together.
Yeah, it's almost like a shortcut because you get input from other yous, essentially. Like, I did this book club with Owen Hunt at the beginning of this year. We did Reality Transurfing by Vaden New Zealand. It was like a 10-week, the book's huge, right? So it was like a 10-week course. But and I hadn't been in a book club in, forever, right? So I forgot what it was, what it was like. And just being able to sit back and listen to other people's perspectives on, we're all talking about the same subject, right? And it's so much more, expansive and holistic than just sitting and reading by yourself, right? It's good.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to look at things. Yeah. It goes back to, one of the first things we were talking about of, like, when someone says something to me, what are they trying to say? If I'm teaching something to a group, one person will pick up one thing, another person will pick up another thing, another person will pick up another thing. And some person will end up doing a technique that I was like, I'll look at them do it. I'll be like, that's not even close to what I taught, but maybe that's what you got out of it. But, like, no one's right or wrong, right? Everyone just had different perspectives based on, where they were seated, how they learn, how they were listening, what was going on in their life. And, if you connect everything, you get all the different perspectives.
And then we start collaborating and building things and creating. And, that's how the future is going to be created, in my opinion. It's not really going to be so much competition. We're going to be cooperating and learning from each other and advancing together, at least in my version anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not that I know like any billionaire CEOs or anything like that, but I can't imagine that they just live in a solitary world by themselves. Every Arthur has their Merlin, right? They have someone who's there, giving them advice, other perspectives, and you need that.
Yep, it's helpful to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't need it, but it certainly will help things out.
Right. Question number 9. What is your single greatest driving force in life, and how do you further it?
Seeing people grow. When I started my martial arts academy, it was very much just to have a fight club with my friends. Not actually a fight club. I shouldn't say that. We weren't like taking our belts off and shirts off and punching each other, but it was just to like take jiu-jitsu back up to our hometown and find a group to train with. And it was great. It was great, but I wasn't necessarily passionate about it. And then I don't know what the hell happened, but I just took a step back, after several years, and I was like, where would I be without jiu-jitsu? I was like, all my friends do it. I go to it every night. I love teaching. I love doing it. I love the community. I love the people. And I was like, man, looking externally, then I'm like, more people need this. And then we started teaching kids. And I was like, cool, we'll get kids like trying to kill each other. Sweet. Let's get kids fighting each other. That's cool. And I coached wrestling for a long time. And that's kind of the perspective I had with that as well. But like parents started coming to me with like, deep stuff. Like, hey, my kid was on ADHD medicine. With martial arts, they don't need to be on it anymore. I was like, what? I had another parent that was like, hey, thanks for your program. My daughter wants to stop because she now has the confidence to do dance, which she wanted to do all along. But without martial arts, she would never have been able to do dance. I'm like, that's the perfect reason to quit. You're the only one that's ever allowed to quit. And, just knowing what jujitsu's done for me, and not just jujitsu, but, the relationships in the community that we've built, that's what drives me, because I know it does the same thing for other people. And I also know for every one person that comes to me with something, there's 5 or 10 other people that didn't. Right? There's a lot of people out like me who are just doing it and they haven't realized the impact that it's had on them. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, especially if you can help with the development of a child and give them, confidence, and then on top of that, self-defense skills, like that's a big bonus, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. And, people ask me all the time, like, are you going to do the gym full time? When are you going to quit your career? And like I told you, like, I love my career. Like, I don't want to quit it. The only way I would really quit my career is like, and don't fire me, Accenture. I know you won't, because I love you guys. But like, man, if for some reason they're like, hey, you need to start traveling every week now, typical consulting lifestyle of, you fly out Monday, you come back Friday, rinse and repeat for like 12 weeks straight. Then I would be like, hey guys, this is a conflict. This is now, it went from a hell yeah to a hell no. Because I need the gym. Like I can't, not just, it will run. It will run beautifully if I'm not there, but I need martial arts. I need my community, and you can't pull me away from it. But on the flip side, with me not going there, my mission at first was like, hey, I want to impact as many kids as I can, kids, adults, whatever it might be personally. And I've started in the last 3 years, I've started hiring people. And now it's like, it's different. It's like, I want to hire people so they can do that. So they have the opportunity. Like, who has a career in martial arts that's not like a professional fighter and doesn't own a gym? Like a salary employee who's just teaching jiu-jitsu for a living. That's sweet. Like, I want to provide more jobs like that for people.
Yeah, that would be, one of the positives of automation, I would think. It gives people more free time to pursue the passions that everybody's interested in, right? So,
I love the gym because, I get to kill a lot of birds with one stone.
That's right.
That makes sense. I get to kill a lot of birds with one stone. I tell people this all the time. I get to hang out with my friends. I get to teach and help people. I get to do a physical workout. I get to learn how to defend myself. I get to run my business, all when I'm there teaching for a couple of hours. Like, I can't think of another thing that I have in my life that I could do that with. I'm sure there's people that have, stuff like that. And that's like, but there's not a lot of people that have that in their life, right? Where they get to help other people. They get the fitness side of things. They get the community side of things. They make money doing it. Dude, that's the life, man. That's how I picture the life.
So have you seen like since 2019, say like beginning of 2019 till now, has there been like an uptick of like an inflow of people coming to the academy, to the gym, or is it the same? Is it less?
Man, ever since like I started, like I think I kind of really came at the ground level of jiu-jitsu. There's been driving forces in making people do martial arts, everything from the Karate Kid to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Power Rangers to, for me, it was like the Three Ninjas growing up. Like I saw the Three Ninjas movies and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be like Rocky. And then there was the UFC that really kind of started driving jiu-jitsu to be what it was. And now, especially adults, like if an adult comes in, like, thank you, Jocko Willink and Joe Rogan. They've been huge driving factors. They have the audiences, and we get a lot of people that are like, hey, I've been hearing about this for a while. And, they get hit from a few different directions about jujitsu and how good jujitsu is, not just for like defense, but for like having a community and healthy habits and stuff like that. So from an adult standpoint, that's what we think now. I remember back in the day, like there'd be a UFC on a Friday or a Saturday. And this is probably like 2008 to even 2007 to whatever, 14. And you would have a fight on a Friday or Saturday, and Monday would be like packed at the gym. All the new guys showing up. And you're like, I'm not going on Mondays because I don't want to deal with all these people that want to be fighters. And now that doesn't happen anymore. UFC is a lot more mainstream. The people that fight in the UFC, they're athletes. They're not just like a karate dude or a boxing dude. Like these guys are like, and like the old school UFC guys, they're a karate dude or a boxer, and they're also like a lawyer and a firefighter. And now it's like, if you're in the UFC, like you're a professional fighter and like that's your career and that's what you do. You might own a gym too, but like that's what you do. You're not like performing heart surgery at the same time, like in another job, or settling legal cases or building buildings. Like you're just a fighter now. So you've seen some pullback on that, but man, when I started, I was probably the youngest person in the state doing jiu-jitsu, and I was 20. I don't think there was a single kids program in the state in 2008. I don't know when it blew up. We started doing kids in maybe 2009 or 10, but our kids did judo. But over the years, like kids is starting to become the majority. Right now, at least for the next couple of decades, you're going to see black belts, people getting their black belts at like 40 and 30. You're going to start seeing some like 19 to 25-year-old black belts soon, because people are starting when they're 6. I just hired my first 2 14-year-old employees, work permits and all, at the gym, who've been with me since they were 6 or 7 years old. Wow. And now they're helping teach class and they're paid instructors.
Wow.
That's sweet.
That is really cool to hear. That makes my heart happy for hope for the future, right?
Yeah. And I mean, they're like the best, but it's crazy. So it's blowing up for sure. I don't know when or what caused it, but our kids program is larger than our adult program, and our adult program is big. We'll have 30, 35 adults in class. But our kids program, man, break them down by ages. Like we have 30 kids, 20, 30 kids per age group in class. So
for adults that are just kind of like first signing up and just getting started, like what would an introductory, like what is the first thing you would have somebody completely new in their, I don't know, mid-20s on up, I guess would be an adult, right? Or like 18 legally, right? Like how do you break them in?
Murder them.
Yeah.
Put them with the biggest dude in the gym. Not really. So a few different, like there's like a couple different perspectives on that. And a lot of gyms do it differently. We just throw brand new people into our class. Our curriculum rotates too. So we don't have like a starting point of like, hey, this is when our curriculum starts. Jiu-jitsu is so deep. And deep being there's so many techniques and positions, it's ridiculous. And you need to know not all of them, but a lot of them to be proficient in the sport, at least the sport side of things. So we just put people right in our class. We practice perfect partner. So when you come in, I'll learn about you. I get to understand what your goals are. It's my job to show you how we can meet those goals. I put you with who I think is going to be a perfect partner for you, whether it's body size, body type, age, personality, whatever it might be. I'm going to find the best person in the room and put you with them, but not like the best as in like the highest rank, the best person for you, so you have the best experience. And then you just do regular class. You'll start with the technique. We'll explain that technique to you, and then we're going to teach you how to roll right away, and we're going to get you sparring. But we're going to get you sparring with typically the highest ranking students. And it's honestly a safety thing for my students and for you, but mostly for my students. Not because I'm scared that you're some psycho guy who's going to just like stab everyone, but like you don't do jujitsu. So here's where the problem shows up. If you're a newer, let's say you're a white belt who's been training for like 9 months, you're very used to people doing controlled things against you, and it's predictable. The hardest thing about going with a brand new person is they're like the crazy man in a fight. You never know what they're going to do. Right? So I need you to go with my higher ranking students because they know how to keep themselves safe and how to keep you safe. Stop you from doing something stupid that's going to hurt you or them. And they'll just kind of show you the ropes. They'll teach you how to tap out. They'll show you some more basic positions. Make sure you have fun. You can rest as much as you want. We want you to have a good time because we want you to stick with it.
That sounds like a great time. I mean, I don't do any martial arts, but obviously after talking to you, I want to. But I love that the fact that you have the beginners train with the most advanced students, because that forces the student to then become the teacher, right? And then because for safety reasons, right? But
yeah, one of the biggest things I've done with my students at my academy is to make sure that by the time you're a little bit higher of a rank, you're a darn good person. That's important to me, that my upper belts are good people, and they can usually convey jujitsu to another person and teach it to them. They don't have to know how everything works or the answers to every question, but to like break down the steps and help you kind of understand what the steps are or show them to you in a way that helps you learn them. I have a super strong crew of people that can do that. Usually probably like 6 people in every class. I could pick one of 6 people for you to go with that I would be like, this person could teach you the insides and outs of this and make sure you have a great time.
Yeah, you're breeding leadership skills. If you give the students to become the opportunity to become teachers. I mean, that forces them to take more personal responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a big part of leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important for, anything that emphasizes that nowadays, because we don't get enough of that. I don't think we get enough of that in everyday, daily, whatever life, right?
Yeah, especially I won't go into kids and education and stuff like that, but teaching kids those life skills and what qualities do leaders have and why is it important to be a good role model? It's stuff that we teach. Like we have a leadership program at our academy just to teach kids that stuff because there's not a lot of other sources that give them that and opportunities to give them that. Like I said, I just hired 2 14-year-olds. It's because they're leaders. It's not because like I need cheap labor. I don't need them at all. I want them to teach more so they get more experience, but I'm also not going to have them teach for free. So I'm going to pay them because I can legally do that when they're 14 and they're not my child.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Speaking of role models, that leads us to question 10. Who are or were your role models and why?
I don't know if role models is interesting to me because, I think everyone has qualities that are great. And I think there's ones that you should stray away from, and I have a lot of people that I look up to for certain reasons. I'll say that. So maybe my definition is, hey, Perry, who's the list of people that you look up to and why? Right. And I won't say this other side of the way I should stay away from. Right. But to give an example, like David Goggins, not one of my role models, but like that dude puts in the work. But there's also parts of my life where I'm like, I don't want that. Like, if I need motivation, he is motivation, but he's a little bit too much motivation at sometimes. Right. So I like thinking about that question in that way. So like my parents, I love them to death. They're great role models. They taught me to be a great, kind human being. And, I owe a lot to them. I have business mentors that I look up to. We talked about my mentors, Michael Burnoff and Mark England. I think they're great role models when it comes to communication and communicating with yourself and others in a influential and positive way to help, yourself and others get what they want and what they need. I look up to my jiu-jitsu coach for the things that he's done and that he's given me the gift of jiu-jitsu in my life. I have peers of mine, specifically a couple I'm thinking of is Chad, Jason, and Michael. They're a few peers of mine in communication and martial arts circles that, like, if I have something going on and I need someone, they are huge for me. Like, they know the industry, they know how I communicate, they know so much about me that, I look up to them. They're great parents. They are great martial arts instructors, and they're just in general great human beings and great friends. And then I have, my top list of friends. And, I think everyone in my top list of friends, my local circle of 5, I look up to in their own ways. So I would consider them all role models to me. But it's important to surround yourself with people that they have qualities that you admire that you want to see in yourself. But it's also good to acknowledge that, we all have our flaws, and they do too. And it's not that their flaws are bad or they should get rid of them, right? Just maybe I don't want that flaw. I don't know.
Yeah, I like how you reframed the question, because you're absolutely right. We shouldn't have put anybody on a pedestal, right? Because there's that other side to them, right? But we do want to absolutely accentuate the positive aspects and try to emulate those.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I remember even growing up, I wasn't a very athletic kid, but I'm probably more athletic than everyone now, considering I haven't stopped training since growing up. But, there's this one kid I remember growing up that I wanted to be him. Like, he was good at every sport he did. He was in the cool circle of people. And I was like, man, I wish I could just be him. And I don't know when it happened, but I also took a step back and I was like, oh, he's kind of a dick. Like, I want to be him, but I don't want to be like the dick personality side of him. And that's kind of where at least the first sense in my mind of when it started. I'm sure many people can relate to that, being, idolizing one of your friends, being like, man, I wish I could just be like one of my friends. And then realizing, yeah, maybe I don't want to be all of one of my friends. Maybe I want to, keep some of myself too. Maybe I just want his athletic abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also interesting to think about. I too, if we kind of invert this, because we can take a good quote from a bad chapter if we make the book analogy, right? Because sometimes somebody who maybe isn't too savory or not very pleasant in the outside world, or maybe did some bad things, but maybe they said something that makes a lot of sense. But maybe so taking into account the positive aspects of whoever it is, and trying to focus on those as opposed to everything as everything, or
and it's important for me to just, not that I ask for it, but I end up, and I know and I acknowledge that I end up being a role model for a lot of people, which is also, whether it be kids or adults or whoever, when you're the coach, you're kind of this role model by default. And I was an openly bad one for a long time. And now I realize hey, there's a lot of people that look up to you, and I just hold myself to a higher standard. There's still parts of me that are I'll be totally open of hey guys, you can admire me and look up to me for these certain things, but there's also these other things that you're way better at than I am. Don't make me your role model in that area, because you're actually mine in that area. Right. But it's also very important. And we tell every student this in class, you're someone's role model. And the martial arts line is a perfect example of it. We line up at the beginning of class, lowest rank to highest rank. The new student is on the lowest rank, on the lowest side of things. Now, everyone thinks it's okay, who do you look up to in class? Everyone looks to the highest rank. And it's like, okay, you have the person next to you, you have the person next to them. It's like, you have that kind of trickle up to the highest rank in class, but like, you don't know, maybe that brand new student is like the friendship leader in a friendship circle at school. And now the highest ranks looking up to that brand new student for their behaviors, not jujitsu, because they look up to them in a different scene. It's like someone's always looking up to you. There's white belts that I look up to in my gym because, I think that they've raised amazing kids and I want to have a family someday. And, they're my role model for raising a kid, and then I'm the role model for jujitsu. But someone's always looking up to you.
And we're all mirrors for each other too. So like throw that in the mix and it becomes super interesting to think of. Question number 11. What quality do you most admire in a woman?
Oh, so yeah, I know you said you're engaged. I recently got engaged back in October as well. So
congratulations.
Yeah, you as well. It's cool, like finding that person. So I wish I could just like put a picture of her on the screen, but she's brilliant, way smarter than me, at least in some areas. Witty, a lot of drive, a lot of passion for what she does. And I think that passion is a big thing to me. So we'll go with that one as the quality, because I'm a person, like I have a lot of passion for what I do in my life and, the kind of the mission I'm on, and she has one too. And the fact that we both have something and we're both very supportive of each other in those missions, I think really creates a super strong connection.
Absolutely. I mean, if everybody's involved in their own creative work, right, and we're helping each other, we're going to be successful. But so like having drive and passion is absolutely 100% good quality. But the one you mentioned right before that, witty, like that to me says a sense of humor. And if you're going to be passionate about something, then it helps to have, some balance and humor to not take yourself so seriously sometimes, right?
We're both just goofballs. Like I'm definitely, if you ask someone, is Perry a goofball? Like I'm a goofball for sure. Like I can get serious, but I'm also just like, I don't care. Like I'll just say whatever. But like it shows up, like we'll just do like weird dance parties in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe it's because I'm almost 35. Like I just crack dad jokes all the time. She pretends she doesn't find them funny, but sometimes she actually finds them funny, sort of a thing. And then she cracks a dad joke and I just try to keep a straight face and I never can. But sarcasm is a sign of intelligence for sure.
Yeah, and it's one that is getting harder. Sarcasm in general is just getting harder to express with the digital age, because you can't be sarcastic in a text. Like we should come up with some protocol of like putting like
you got to put an emoji. Like
yeah,
if you text like, "Hey, you're a jerk" to someone, and you put like a thumbs up smiley face after it, like you're fine. Like no one actually thinks that.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah.
And that's like huge business tip. Like we do a lot of text messaging for the gym and stuff. Like our phones just blow up all the time. Just because we also have that sort of connection with our members. Emojis really truly help convey feelings. People rely on facial expressions and tonality. Very hard to get tonality. You get like commas and punctuation, but emojis, you can use those sometimes.
Yeah, I like emojis. I like to think of it as like we're reverting back to just drawing cave paintings, right? Like reverting back is probably not the right words, right? But we're using hieroglyphs, right? Basically.
Yeah. I mean, but in the world of text and email and Facebook, I still love, like I send stack. I'll show you on video, but like this is a stack of postcards to all of my advanced students at my gym. Like all it says is "you're awesome," and then I write a personal note on it. Like where's that? I send every single person that joins my gym, they get a personal video from me saying hi. I want to learn. I truly want to learn about their goals so I can help them. And I want to make sure that they feel comfortable and feel onboarded into our program. So I do it over a video. And I get so many people that are like, hey, was not expecting a video. Thank you for that.
Yeah, dude,
Even if I saw the person even if I sold them the membership, I'll send them the video the day after. Like, this is what I do.
that speaks to your passion. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Question number 12. What is the most courageous thing you have ever done or seen in your life?
That's a hard one. And I wish I had like someone saved someone else's life for, I was almost about to ruin the Top Gun movie but some like crazy thing that happened, but I really don't, I think starting and sticking with my own business took a lot of courage. Sticking through stuff that a lot of people would quit. Running a business for this long and getting your black belt in Jiu Jitsu, we're talking about recognizing wins. Not a lot of people do that. Operate a successful business that's impacting a lot of people and they get their black belt in 2 different martial arts. Being consistent with stuff. My business partner, I think the courageous thing that he did was he left the gym to not find another passion, but to take a different career elsewhere. And I thought that took a lot of courage. Every time I see someone propose to another person, I was like, that took a lot of courage. Like to make a super decisive decision. Even people having tough conversations, like shit. Can I say that on this podcast? You can that out.
Yeah, no,
like, man, for me, that's a challenge. Like every time I have to have a tough conversation, like if I need to summon all of my courage for something, it's usually that. I am definitely not a people pleaser, but I definitely don't like having hard conversations with people. That I will avoid them like the plague. And I would say that's probably the most courageous thing I've ever done is having a hard conversation.
Yeah, being the saying what is necessary to be said, but is not always comfortable to be said.
100%.
And
100%. But I'm going to keep my eye out for some lives I can save. Run into some fires or something so I can replace it with that. But I don't even think it would. Diving into a lake to save a drowning dog. I think that's courageous, but man, I still think like consciously, like if that was in front of me, I would do it because it's just there. I don't know if it would actually even take courage because I think it would just probably turn on.
Instinct almost.
Yeah. It's just hard conversations, man, because they linger there. They sit there for so long for me because I don't do them right away. And it's like the longer I let it go, the more courage I need to have to say the things.
There's prep work. There's more prep work involved. But
yeah,
back to your original point, like starting your own business, your own gym, or your friends leaving and finding a new thing to start, like, or proposing. Like these are all examples of putting ourselves out there to the universe in some way, right? And trusting that the universe has got our back. Like no matter, proposing for one thing, like usually, hopefully you have a good idea of what she's going to say when you ask the question, right? But as far as like, entrepreneurship, like risking that on that level, like
some of that for me, like I'm actually glad I started that when I was in college because I was very ignorant as well. My dad is one of my role models and he comes from a business family of like family owned and operated businesses. So entrepreneurship runs in the family. And I think he knew it. I'm sure he knew it. But like when I started my gym when I was in college, like I didn't think of, hey, this is going to like lock me to this city and this area. And this is what I'm doing. until I'm not doing it, which apparently is never. And I'm lucky I was ignorant about it, because if I knew about that and if I actually thought about it, then I would say, yeah, that probably would have taken a lot of courage, right? It's not like an online business where, hey, I can, travel to Hawaii and just keep selling my e-commerce product there. Not that everyone can do that, but it's in Grafton. It's in Grafton, Wisconsin. Like, I'm there now. Like, I'm in it for the long run.
So do you have like one of the original gyms to introduce this to that area then, like that state?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably like one of the earliest gyms to like open one in the suburbs of any major Wisconsin city. Not that there's a ton, but like, you have Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, and then like Appleton, Fox Valley area. And those were kind of like the 4 points of jiu-jitsu. And if you did jiu-jitsu, like, you were there. And now it's spreading, like, just like how every little city has its own little karate studio, starting to get like that with jiu-jitsu. The more and more people there are. And of course, with that, there's higher demand of skill and professionalism. I do think back in the day when it was UFC, everyone did kind of picture Fight Club. So everyone kind of expected walking into a Fight Club sort of like dungeony, scummy kind of place. And, it's not like that anymore, especially with kids in the program. Like, parents are used to taking their kids to nice places. So you kind of have to have a nice place nowadays.
Right. Yeah, I think that's awesome. You've been able to see it grow from, it's so much.
And be able to, grow and adapt with it.
Yeah, and you got to pioneer it. Like, you're pioneer. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to bring it to
and talk about, courageous versus ignorance. Like, apparently I opened my gym during the recession. And I was like, I was in college. Like, I don't remember there being a recession. Like, I had a job, but it wasn't impacting me. I'm sure it was in like indirect ways, but like, I was just in school and starting a little club, and like, we had a couple members, enough to keep the doors open. But like, if someone sat down with me and said, hey, Perry, you open this business, it's a recession. You're going to be doing this the rest of your life if it works. You're going to live in Wisconsin for the rest of your life if it works. I'd be like, oh, maybe I want to second guess this. But it was more went down of like, we were sitting on the mat after class one day, and my friend Luke's like, hey, we should start a gym back home. We could just buy some terrible puzzle mats and set up some space in this subletted area. And I was like, hey, I got some college money left over from my student loans. Let's buy some mats. And it was like 2 weeks later, we had a gym.
That's so cool. Like, so where were you? Where did you you were sitting on a mat? Like, where was the mat when the
Yeah, it was at my instructor school in Milwaukee that I still train at.
Okay.
So like 30 minutes south of our location.
Right on.
Yeah, we just sublet space out of like like our own local Gold's Gym sort of a thing. They had like group fitness rooms, where they do like yoga or group fitness classes, whatever it might be. And he worked there at the front desk, and I think he was a spin instructor too. And he was like, hey, he went to the owners like, hey, we want to start doing this jiu-jitsu thing, and you're not running classes on these 2 nights. Can we rent the room from you? And they were like, sure. And we just did it. We just did that long enough until we had enough kind of members that were paying us like next to nothing to open our own space. And we went from there.
Right. It's from the ground up, like almost covert, right?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of bootstrapping. There's the book, Guerrilla Marketing, back in the day, that was just like ways to do marketing that involved no money. And that was like, okay, what can we do from this?
All right. That brings us to the capstone question, question 13. What does it mean to be a man in today's world?
Dude, man, just be a good person. This world just needs good people that care about other people. That I have nothing else to say beyond that. Just like there's and I don't know what the definition is of like a good person versus a bad person, but if you're a good person and if you're a good human being.
Yeah, we all have that internal.
Like, be a person that says they're going to do what they're going to do. Know people are looking up to you and you're a role model for other people. And be a good human being. Care about others, love other people, be kind. That's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you nailed it with the care thing. Like, that's a huge aspect. Like, doing things with care and being kind, like caring with kindness. Because
I'll add one. Care about yourself. One of the biggest realizations I've had is like, I need to grow myself. It's hard. Entrepreneurs out there, it's very hard to grow a business if you don't grow as an individual. It's hard to grow as a competitor or a martial artist if you don't grow as an individual. Right. So take some time and find some ways to grow yourself, whether it's developing new habits that serve you, finding that circle of people that help raise you and challenge you in positive ways, but be kind and grow yourself.
Well put. Do you want to let the listeners know where they would be able to find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is PJ the Llama, all one word. Long story about that from my historical paintball career days before I was in jiu-jitsu. But PJ the Llama on Instagram. Otherwise, my gym is Neutral Ground Grafton. We love having visitors. So if you're ever in the Wisconsin area, drop in. I would love to train with you. And if you have a gym that's out there and I'm invited to visit, I would love to come.
Can you tell us the paintball story? Do we have time for that? Is that
so do you remember back in the day where like now there's Reddit, but like people had their own forums?
Yeah.
Like, you have your own like message boards.
Message board, yeah.
Yeah, message boards. And you can have like a picture of your face. So I used to play paintball, and that's actually with my business partner that I started the gym with, who's no longer part of the business. But I actually met him through paintball in high school. He owned a local paintball store that he opened with his dad because he was 16 or 17. And he owned the local paintball store, and we had a paintball team, and we played like all over the place, super competitive with it. Like I did as much paintball as I possibly could. I spent all of my money on it because it's expensive, but I spent all of my money. I worked just to play paintball for several years. And we had this message board for the paintball store that we would post on. And I went to change my picture on it one day to a picture of a llama because I think llamas look goofy. And I didn't resize the picture down, and his website didn't automatically resize the picture down. And I accidentally uploaded this huge picture of a llama. So anytime I made a post, it would break his website, and it would just be like this huge llama on the page. So everyone started calling me the llama, and like it just stuck. Like it was PJ the Llama, and then on the forum, and then it ended up being like my probably my AOL Instant Messenger tag, and then it was my Xbox tag, and it just kind of stuck.
It stayed. Yeah. This is funny. So you're breaking the website with this giant image file.
Dude, just like picture like just going on a Facebook, and there's just anytime I post on Facebook, there'd be a huge llama on the screen. You couldn't see anything else.
That's hilarious.
That's where the PJ the Llama came from. I also love paintball. It's super fun. Super fun.
All right. Well, I will have all those links in the show notes for the listeners to find you. And Perry, thank you so much for carving out some time to spend with us. That is truly one of the most valuable resources we have is time. So thank you for taking these moments to be here and answer these questions with us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I wanna hawene. How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene. How you wanna hawene, yo wa.
Why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why? I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's divine. Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism.
How you wanna hawene?
Why?
How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene?
Why?
How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene?
Why?
How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene?
Why?
How you wanna hawene, yo
Why is
wa.
there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why?
How you wanna hawene?
Why?
How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene?
Why?
How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene? How you wanna hawene, yo wa. How you wanna hawene? How you wanna hawene, yo wa.
This should be considered entertainment and not therapy. We hope you benefit from our resources available at 13questionspodcast.com. Thank you for listening.